when people get into these businesses, whether they're as shareholders, whether they're stockholders, or they're bondholders that are lending money to the companies, they got to keep an eye out there to make sure that they're not finding themselves caught in another bubble all over again. And I'm in dire concern right now. This is my Tinfoil Hat Award winner for this week. I have dire concern that we're drinking the Kool-Aid of yet another tech bubble these days, and somebody's got to call it. Somebody needs to burst this bubble before we get any farther down the line, because this one's going to be another very, very expensive one if we let it keep on going. JP Morgan has initiated a technology investment fund, and they apparently want to buy a 10% share in Twitter. And we've talked about Twitter here on WHO Radio. I use it. We have a WHO Radio account. Brian Dean has an account. I have an account. It's not that we think this is a bad service or a bad product.
We were on Twitter before Twitter was cool. Because we're on there you're on there as Brian Gongo without any other weird characters on there.
Exactly. No
I'm
underscore.
on there as Brian Dean.
I didn't have to go to them like Charlie Sheen and get a special dispensation to get approved as an authorized account early on. Have you been watching what he posts there? Holy cow.
No, but I've heard about it.
It's beyond insane. Like, clearly the man is having a serious breakdown, or he must be, because
here's something really funny. Talk about we're doing some work with poetry in one of the English classes that I teach at Waukee High School, and one of my colleagues came up with this idea. There's some epitaphs, which is the poetic sort of famous last word sort of thing.
Yep.
All right, and so one of our assignments was to have students, create an epitaph either for a famous person or for a concept. And sort of with his tongue firmly planted in his cheek, he said, we ought to make one of the concepts be Charlie Sheen's integrity.
Oh, man.
Which the students thought was quite funny. I didn't even think they'd get it. But, no, they thought that was amazing.
See, this is the thing.
Because they're living that.
Oh, yeah, they're seeing it live, and it's an experience. You didn't get to see James Dean go out in the blaze of glory if you're 14 or 15 years old now, but you're getting to see Charlie Sheen do what he's doing, and maybe he'll end up just fine. Maybe he'll pull a Britney Spears and shave his head and spend some time in rehab and come out and be fine. I'm not sure, but here's something he just posted on Twitter just a couple hours ago. Fastball. Last night was treasonous to the movement. My bad. A video solution coming soon. Sheen's Corner. What is he talking about?
Yeah.
He's just gone bonkers, and it's kind of frightening. But
where's his dad?
Well, no kidding. It's time.
But Charlie Sheen is what, 40-something, right?
Something like that, yeah.
With kids, which...
That's the part that worries me.
And they've been removed, I believe, from the household.
Exactly. And so at some point or another, somebody's got to step in to protect the children, because they're not at fault for any of this. And, maybe he's just fine, and maybe he's just making all of this stuff up because it's a great marketing ploy, because, look, we're even talking about it here on WHO.
We are.
But seriously, the guy needs to not be quite so nuts, I don't think. But so is Twitter a valuable thing? Well, I don't know. It's interesting to watch. I don't know that I would consider it absolutely valuable, but I definitely would not agree with JP Morgan right now and believing that it is worth $4.5 billion. JP Morgan is trying to put together a fund to buy 10% of the company for $450 million. I'm sorry, it is not worth $4.5 billion. Its platform is improving, but it's still buggy. It still crashes from time to time. It relies mainly on brand recognition to have any kind of ongoing success. And on the internet, ongoing success based on brand recognition means that you're never more than a single click away from losing that. Just ask pets.com. It just doesn't last indefinitely. Brand recognition on the web is not everything. It doesn't last forever. So for them to assume that this company is worth $4.5 billion because everybody's using it right now kind of resembles what happened a few years ago when everybody thought MySpace was what everybody was using right now.
It's gone.
Yeah, it's not fully gone, but
but
have
it's
you gone
not
there
a social
lately?
network anymore, is it?
Yeah, it still kind of is, but I haven't really looked at it in a really long time, so it might have faded away in the last couple of weeks anyway, and I haven't even noticed. And that's the point. It doesn't take a lot for people to stop going to MySpace and to start using Facebook instead. And it doesn't take a lot for people to say, you know what, I'm tired of all the drama associated with Facebook. I'm done with it. I quit. People do this all the time. I have friends who have quit repeatedly and then come back only because, well, they thought they'd give it one more
You know
shot.
what I do? I really don't do much with Facebook or Twitter until I get like some sort of message about someone wanting to be a friend.
Exactly.
I better go do this.
Yeah, and then you check it out.
I'll look it out and think, I could say something. But I don't do much with it. I really don't. It isn't that big of a deal to me.
And so to say that it's worth $4.5 billion, which is the equivalent of a very fairly sized company that, makes things or does things that are recognizable and have a durable kind of ongoing effect. I mean, this is just silly. I mean, that is a tech bubble all over again. Again, I'm not saying it's a bad company or a bad service or anything like that, but it's not worth $4.5 billion. That's just a tech bubble all over again. And that's no good. So it's bad to see that going on. Also disconcerting, though, is the news that apparently both the FDIC, the people who watch the banks, and the Federal Reserve, the people who lend the money to the banks, have both concluded that Midwestern farmland is now in the presence of yet another asset bubble.
Oh, yeah, that's not surprising.
Yeah, big time. I mean, not even just a little bit.
The land is going in some places for what, over $10,000 an acre?
Over $10,000 an acre, in northwestern Iowa included. I mean, it's not like it's remote from us here. It's happening here. And it's funny because the original place where I saw some of this news actually came from the Omaha World Herald. And they're talking about Nebraska land prices, and their average farmland is worth considerably less than it is here in Iowa because it has to be irrigated and it's not as productive. Even there, they've seen, though, prices just in the last 10 years double or more than double on average. And that's beyond the pace of inflation. Here in Iowa, it's been even more dramatic in some places. Up by Lamar's, they were selling it for $10,000 an acre. I mean, it's great land. Don't get me wrong. I know it. I've seen it. I've been there. It's great land. But $10,000 an acre?
Can one make a profit?
It's really hard.
$10,000 an acre land.
Well, and it's
or is it all about speculation? I'll buy it for $10,000, but I can sell it for $15,000.
That's
kind of like buying gold.
That's the problem, because farmland is in one of those strange asset categories where it's limited in supply. It doesn't change. There's not more of it getting made.
Farm.
Yeah, exactly. And there are people doing it. Yeah. That's part of the news, is that investors are now getting into it instead of just family farmers. It's investors getting into the ownership of the land. Well, that's a change. That's different. And that drives prices differently than if it's just the family farm. It's totally different if a group of people are getting together and buying it as an asset that they intend to hold on to maybe for a while, and then maybe, as you say, flip it later on.
But then what happens when, like the housing values in Detroit, where a $200,000 home a few years ago now sells for
six?
Yeah, exactly.
It's true.
Which I suppose if you have $6,000 and you buy a house on a 1-year mortgage or whatever, and maybe yay you, but for everybody else that's really a problem. And what about the young folks who want to get into farming?
Oh, and see, that's the huge problem. That's a huge problem right there, because not only is it difficult to get in if you're starting from zero, if you don't have any, but even if you're trying to buy it from other members of the family, you're trying to do a transition. Well, when farmland goes to $10,000 an acre, if you have 500 acres, I mean, that's worth a huge amount of money, but it's not like you can just write a check to mom and dad to buy that off of them. Nor can you just, if you're mom and dad, give it to the family without paying huge gift taxes on it.
Is a bank going to give a $5 million loan to a 20-year-old?
That's the problem, see? And how long will the prices that sustain that keep up? I mean, granted, commodity prices are sky high right now. I mean, soybean prices were huge, but I did see them misreported the other day. I saw something in the Des Moines Register that apparently had not been properly copy edited, because they claimed that soybeans were at $19 a bushel. I talked to a friend of mine who does farm actually up by Lamar's, and I said, if soybeans hit $19 a bushel, I am tearing up my front yard with a rototiller and I'm starting to plant. He said, if you start to do that, he goes, I'll be there helping you out. We're going to tear out the driveway. I mean, there's no way that it's that. But they are sky high right now. And because of those sky high prices, that's driving some of the farmland prices. But the problem is, when you're in the midst of a bubble, it can keep on going. And the people who know that it's a bubble and don't want to get in can stand there on the sidelines and say, this is worrisome. It bothers me. I'm not getting in. But it's not as easy if you're intent on trying to pull out before it bursts. And that's what some people are hoping to do with farm prices, I'm sure, is they know it's a bit speculative and they're going to try to get out before the bubble bursts, but you never know when it's going to happen. And it might go on for another couple of years, but at some point or another, the prices will retreat. They just about have to, the way they've increased in the last couple of years. They're not making any new farmland, to be sure, but you also can't indefinitely see increases year over year of 10% or more and not at some point or another hit a plateau and then go back a bit and retake some ground. Now, how much it recovers, how much it falls back, who knows? But I worry about that because it means a lot to us here in the state of Iowa. It means a huge amount if prices keep on galloping upwards. It's good news on one hand, but it's worrisome because it's not sustainable to keep rising at 10 or 15 or 20% a year, as in some places it appears to have been doing. So let's hope that this is not a bubble that causes us great pain in the future here in the state of Iowa.